Good morning, Juliet McGraw, Community and Cultural Education Director for the Friends of the Richfield National Wildlife Refuge, ready to welcome you to our second Sunday of the season. And today is all about birds. Not only are we going to think like birds, talk like birds, we get to meet Dr. Bird, a good friend of mine. But first, let's do our craft activity for today. Now, for our craft activity, what you're going to need is, of course, your coloring book. Oh wait, it's not a book, it's a bag. Don't forget that you can take permanent markers and color these and use them for your book bags, your school bags, or anything else. But to start, you're going to need your instruction sheet. So one of the things that I want to point out before we get started is this last line down here. Let's read it together. Attention, you must never shout into someone's ear through the ear trumpet. This can injure the inner ear. So let's remember to be kind and considerate once we have our craft made. So we need our instruction sheet, and I kind of cheated. I went ahead and made my horn along. So let's get started. I'm going to read these while you are at home cutting out and taping. So making an ear trumpet. A funnel collects and amplifies sound in the hearing process. That's why many animals have large funnel-shaped ears. The ear trumpet is the original shape of hearing aids. Well, let's talk about that first sentence. One of the activities I get to do on the refuge when we have kids out and families, it's not just for kids, is our deer ear exercise. So something you can do even if you didn't want to do the funnel is you can put your hands up behind and in front of your ears. And if you try that for just a few seconds, you're going to notice that there are things that you maybe didn't hear. So it's a good way if there's something really noisy in front of you you don't want to hear, you can block your ears or cover them, right? But what if there's something in front of you that you really want to hear? So like a jackrabbit or a deer, you would perk your ears up. So we know people in our community don't always hear the same. Some people do not have complete hearing, or they might have partial loss in one ear, or they can hear higher pitches better than low pitches. Some people have a condition called tinnitus, where there's a constant ringing in their ears. In either case, historically, across a lot of the continents, humans have figured out ways for people to hear more. In fact, if you want to know more, you can contact the Washington School for the Deaf, located just up the highway on I-5 in Vancouver, Washington. There are resources for you in your community if you know people that are hearing impaired, or if you just want to educate yourself a little bit better about others in our community that may go through their different life ways. So this one's the easy part. So making a megaphone or an ear trumpet, you need a square sheet of paper, which we've provided for you, and you cut that out, and you're going to tape it, and you're going to make this cone. So let's think about this cone. It's a pretty standard shape. You probably learned about it in early math classes. Now we've snipped off that end, so we need a space to put in our hair. I gave myself lots of space so that I didn't poke myself. We don't want to hear. But let's just take for a second and think about what it's like to hear without it. And you might have played along with your hands when I did the deer game, but now let's try that. You can even play with it and plug one ear. Now, one of the interesting things about a funnel is you can move it around. So let's say there's something in front of you you really want to hear. Or, I hear a bird up there. I'm going to try to zoom in on the bird. So this is a really simple thing you can do just to amplify. So maybe you're on a trail and you hear a bunch of birds, but they're kind of off in the distance and you almost can identify them. You're pretty sure you know what it is. You can make a cup hand like this, or even if you just have some note paper in your backpack. Now, one of the things that I wanted to experiment with before I left you today is, can I hear more with different types? So I grabbed my cooking funnels. So if I put the little one in, I definitely can hear that my neighbor's car is running. And I hear a few songbirds. Let's see if I hear more. That was my smallest funnel. Oh, that car got a lot louder. It sort of sounds like the bird is inside my ear. I don't think it's in the tree right next to me, but it sounds much closer. Now I'm very curious if there's going to be a really big boost with my largest funnel. Well, one thing that I am noticing is that small cars running across the street make a lot more noise than you originally would think. I can definitely hear some birds a little bit further down. So, what I just learned between my small, medium, and large funnels is that the size of the hole might make a difference, but I think the size of the funnel makes the most. And doesn't that make sense to you? If you think about it, humans were stand upright. We don't have to walk and chase everything anymore, but we do need those ears to hear predators or other things. I hear a crow friend. I'm going to stop for a second. I can hear that it's talking to another crow. I pay attention to the crows in my yard in the morning. So back what I was saying is that I think the aperture and the size could make a difference. And that's why we see maybe some rabbits have really, really large ears, like my favorite rabbits, the jackrabbits. Or maybe some animals have smaller ears, like little dwarf rabbits that live on the Columbia River on the islands. Maybe they don't have a big need. That would be a really curious thought to chase. So, those are some things for us to think about today. I hope to see you in just a little while for our trail tips for the day. Today we're going to do it together, and I hope that you'll also join us for some of the presentations a little bit later in the afternoon. Thank you. Greetings, it's Juliet here again. I just wanted to take a moment to give some trail tips with birding. Now, one of the reasons why I'm going to be doing the trail tips today is because I am a fledgling birder, pun intended. I am new at this. I'm an archaeologist and ethnobotanist by training. And so my relationship with birds for the most part is just they're nice, feathered people to spend time with. So I'm going to share some tips that helped me start first being a birder. So the first thing is I'm going to notice that I have no guide with me today. I think if you're a beginning birder, there's a lot of pressure to identify and name the birds that you're with. And for me, I just want to get to know them first. So my first tip is don't start with a bird book. Seriously, it can add too much pressure to it. I'm here because I want to learn our bird friends and notice more about my lived environment. So that's my first tip. Don't worry about the bird books when you're starting out. The second tip would be you don't have to have a lot of equipment to bird. Really, we're born with everything we need to bird, right? We have ears and we have eyes, and sometimes with certain birds, your nose can help out. So enjoy what we bring to the table just the same way as we enjoy what the birds bring to the table. So for me, I'm here, I'm outside, I'm at one of my favorite parks, and I'm just sitting here. I've sat here long enough that the birds have started chattering again. So it's a mellow experience. I'm not trying to count how many birds that I can see or identify how many birds I hear. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm enjoying what I can bring to this moment with my senses, period. And that's my vision that's been helped with my glasses and my ears. So that's the second thing. Bring what you have to the table for birding, because being present is what's going to make it better. Pretty simple, huh? And then the third thing would be what I'm doing right now. I've chosen a comfortable spot. It's quiet. I'm in the shade. The wind is blowing. I can hear some birds. Before I started recording, they were making a lot more noise. But be willing to sit and be still in a place. Birds are predominantly prey animals, especially the small, more charismatic, colorful songbirds that people want to come out and see. Quick movements, loud movements, too much light, a lot of music, that can disturb birds. So if you're out there just to hang with the birds, finding a still, quiet spot is one of the best ways to get to know our bird friends. It also gives you a chance to appreciate the wind and appreciate the sun. And for me, sometimes I get really distracted when I'm waiting for birds. And because I'm a plant person, I will start looking at the ground. How many plants that are different from one another? How many species can I identify? Are there bugs or other invertebrates that might be around that would be good food for the birds? So picking a place that you can be quiet and comfortable and be curious about the rest of the natural world while waiting for your bird experiences also can be very rewarding. So that's my third tip. Be willing to be still, be willing to be patient. Now, this other one, tip 4, is going to be pretty birdy. It's going to be about using equipment. So it doesn't matter really what kind of binoculars you have. Anything that augments your vision is going to be really helpful to you. Now, I've gone through so many small pairs, I can't even tell you if this is a good brand or a garage sale brand. But here's my small binoculars. They're lightweight. I can put them in the pocket of my cargo pants if I'm on the trail. And they're small enough to fit my glove box. So I always have something with me. And they're not hugely powerful. You get field 6.7. So a little bit. It's not the most massive magnification, but it'll do because I'm a fledgling birder and I just want a little more of an experience. But here's some of the things that I want to remind you. It is much easier to adjust your binoculars before you start needing to use them. So if you think, hey, I'm looking to check out these, I've got a lot of fir trees in the distance and some cedars. Like if I want to do that before I ever spot a bird, I can take them up and I can adjust them so that they're already in focus for what the distance is. Now the second thing is, a lot of people when they're birding, they say the bird and they try to chase them around with the binoculars. But that's not as easy. What we can do is track them with our eyes. So if I saw a turkey vulture right now, I would track that vulture and I would bring the binoculars to my eyes and then follow the bird, because we're not used to changing that depth of vision, right? That's something that we can't look around quickly enough. You might overshoot it. But that's the best tip I got for more technical birding aspects. And I got that from my co-partner at work, Ranger Josie Finley, was bring the binoculars to your eyes, not the eyes to the binoculars. And then my 5th tip is going to be, so bring yourself, bring your senses, have a little bit of equipment. Don't give yourself so much pressure to identify everything. But then once you're there, I invite you to actually, especially for me, since if I did not have glasses, I wouldn't be able to see hardly any birds at all, take a moment and shut your eyes. One of the things this does is you'll immediately open up your senses. I immediately am much more aware of the wind blowing across my skin and in my hair. And I'm much more aware of not just that there are sounds, but where they're coming from. We keep talking about how, the humans have 5 basic senses, and there's great movies about whether we have 6 senses or things like that. But the truth is that humans have a lot more than that. And one of the things, proprioception, where are things coming from? Where's my body and the environment? And when you take that little bit of time, my 3rd step, if you are sitting with the environment, you can start not only hearing birds, but hearing what they're doing and where they're doing it. And when you sit long enough, you realize that those birds are having conversations with each other. Or maybe they're talking to themselves. I certainly talk to myself sometimes. So the quieter you're able to rest, the more you can hear. But lastly, I want to remind all fledgling birders is that the bird friends are here for us to enjoy, and it's our responsibility to care for them and their habitats. So however you want to access the bird members of your life is up to you. But don't feel that you have to get into the competitive birding where you identify everything you see and you identify everything you hear, because sometimes just sitting and enjoying the breeze and enjoying the birds and letting them live their lives and observe them in a quiet manner is one of the best birding experiences you can have. So I invite you to stay tuned and join us for Dr. Teresa Wicks' presentation on becoming birds. I had the chance to meet Dr. Wicks a couple of years ago through her wife, Janelle, who is the executive director at the Friends of Malheur. So we have managed to come up with some really cool connections between the Malheur Refuge and the Ridgefield Refuge. And one of the things that made me so excited to give a platform for Dr. Wicks is that a lot of times we only look at one thing from one direction. And I'm very pleased to say that Dr. Wicks does not look at things the way that everybody else does. It's always been a pleasure to hang out when we get the chance. But right now, I am excited to elevate her research. So Dr. Bird, as she's also known, Bird is her nickname. That's how I know her. I'm so pleased that they are able to share their wisdom, their knowledge, and their experience. And I think she and Janelle have put together a really engaging presentation for becoming birds and getting to think about birding in our area, maybe in a little different way. I'm excited that you're here with us today, and I'm so excited that you get the opportunity to experience Dr. Wicks in all their full glory, with all of their research, and in a place that they're happy, comfortable with the people they love. Thank you for coming and joining us today.